Hey everyone, it's Colin. How's it going? In the early 90s, Apple launched a series of Mac accessories that matched the design of its computers. Most were very straightforward, but one proved to be quite curious indeed. At the beginning of the 1990s, multimedia became the hot new trend in personal computing. Audio, video, and immersive gaming, powered by CD-ROM media, greatly expanded the average computer's capability. But not all PCs at the time included the necessary hardware, so owners often found themselves buying CD-ROM drives, sound cards, and speakers. The same was true for Apple's Macintosh line. While Macs were a bit ahead of the curve in that all of them included built-in sound capabilities, it wasn't until the September 1992 launch of the Mac Performa 600, also sold as the 2VX, that the platform saw its first machine with a built-in CD-ROM drive. Apple's very first CD-ROM drive, though, was the Apple CD-SC from 1988. It was a single-speed unit and connected to a Mac's SCSI bus. While it made headlines in computing publications, it didn't prove very popular, partly because the CD-ROM format was still quite new, and also because of its $1,200 US price tag. But just a few years later, costs fell and popularity was increasing, so Apple made a new push to capitalize on the trend. The Apple CD-150 was released in 1992, and like the SC model before it, offered single-speed performance. The 150 in its name referred to the 150 kilobyte per second data rate. It also used a curiosity from the early days of CD-ROMs. Disk caddies. These were plastic enclosures that CDs had to be loaded into with the intent of preventing the disk from scratches or damage due to handling. The idea was that since CD-ROM titles cost much more than an audio CD, buying a caddy for each disc, priced at around $8 to $10 each, was a worthwhile investment. But owners proved to be cheap, and discs ended up much more durable than expected, so caddies largely just became an annoyance. The primary difference with Apple's new drive was its price. The Apple CD-150 sold for half that of the SC model, initially priced at $600 but falling to $500 within a year. What made this price cut possible was due to standardization among drive manufacturers. Apple simply packaged a mechanism from Matsushita into an external enclosure. It was a formula the company repeated with later models, such as the Apple CD-300 and 600, which were double-speed and quad-speed, respectively, and thankfully ditched the caddies for a motorized tray. While all this was somewhat exciting at the time, these days the Apple CD units aren't much more than interesting accessories for retro Mac enthusiasts. What's more compelling to collectors are the other multimedia-focused products Apple released in 1993 from an internal design group called Mac-like Things. Since the concept of computer multimedia included sound, offering dedicated speakers was Apple's next task. While all Macs up to that point included a built-in speaker, it couldn't provide the same rich sound that one would expect from games or audio CDs. In keeping with the new design language called Espresso that debuted with the Mac Color Classic, the Mac-like Things group created the AppleDesign powered speakers. They were fairly large and heavy compared to some of its competitors' cheaper offerings and included two audio inputs, one for the computer and another for the CD audio connection from an external CD-ROM drive. Reviews were mixed. The speakers were praised for their design and ability to fill a room with sound, but the quality of that sound wasn't so hot. While the highs were fairly crisp, there was a serious lack of bass, despite their ported enclosures. They used full-range drivers just a few inches in diameter, so they were squarely in the category of computer speakers, not home hi-fi, which made their list price of $180 a bit unpalatable to some. Thankfully, Mac owners were offered a better deal in the form of Apple's Multimedia kits. For around $600, one got a bundle with an Apple CD drive, the speakers, and several Multimedia CD-ROM titles, a mix of games and educational applications. And while it seems expensive, that pricing was actually in line with what other companies were charging. Apple even ended up selling a similar kit for Windows PCs towards the end of 1993. But because the CD-ROM drive used SCSI, an interface not common on PCs, a MediaVision Pro Audio Spectrum 16 sound card was also included. Not only would this give audio capabilities to PCs that lacked them, but also had an onboard SCSI controller. But the speakers were tame compared to the next product the Mac-like Things team came up with. The external CD-ROM drives were well suited for desktop Macs, but Apple didn't want to leave out its newfound laptop users. They needed something that would match the PowerBook line, both in design and portability. And what they got was, in some ways, neither of those. Apple's PowerCD was a very different device. While it technically was portable, its design wasn't very conducive to taking it places. Its shape made it look cool but obnoxious to pack, and though it could be powered from batteries, it took 8 AA cells and only lasted for an hour on them. A single SCSI connector on the back allowed it to be used as a CD-ROM drive, of course, but it was limited to single-speed operation, at a time when double and quad-speed drives were in demand. So it wasn't a very good portable CD player nor a very convenient CD-ROM drive, but the PowerCD had one trick up its sleeve. An AV connector on the back allowed it to be connected to a television so it could play back photo CDs. In the early 90s, digital cameras were in their infancy, but there was some growing interest in digital photos. In 1991, Kodak launched a process for digitizing images and saving them to recordable CDs, which was a very new and expensive technology at the time. The premise was simple. Photos would still be shot to film, but processing facilities could scan the negatives and burn them to photo CDs. Those discs could then be read by a computer's CD-ROM drive, so the files could be copied and used in projects like desktop publishing. But photo CDs could also be read by dedicated players and shown on a TV, a digital equivalent to the classic slide projector. Kodak had worked with electronics giant Philips when developing its players, and Philips also baked photo CD compatibility into its CDI platform. Apple's PowerCD was able to play them as well, due to the fact that it was actually just a rebadged Philips product, with some small tweaks. Originally sold as the CDF-100, the addition of CD-ROM drive capabilities was at Apple's request, as were some slight styling changes. Kodak got its own version of the CDF-100 as well, sold as the PCD-880. PowerCD was advertised as being not just for home viewing of photo CDs, but also for business presentations. One could have a custom photo CD made with slides, pictures, and sound clips, and then plug a PowerCD unit into a conference room TV. The introductory CD included with the player was, in fact, such a disc, and perhaps not surprisingly, has the same kitschy feel that some of Philips' CDI titles became infamous for.
To get a photo CD of your own pictures, just take a roll of film to any photo processor who offers Kodak Photo CD development. In return, you'll receive a photo CD of your pictures and a picture index.
Further corroborating the notion that Apple had intentions of PowerCD being used in business was the fact that it was sold in two colors. A version with a dark navy blue enclosure was meant for consumer use, while a dark gray one was sold through business channels. Over time, the blue version was dropped, and all PowerCDs were only sold in gray as a cost-saving measure. And there was good reason for this change. PowerCD didn't sell well at all. Beyond its poor battery life and slow CD-ROM speeds, it was expensive. Initially priced at $500, it soon saw a $100 price cut just to move units. It also had one other critical problem. Photo CD was a flop. Consumers simply weren't interested in spending hundreds of dollars for a player and about $20 per roll of film they wanted to put on disc when they could just keep getting physical prints of their photos made for far cheaper. Apple ended up releasing a new version of their AppleDesign powered speakers, more compact and less expensive than the originals, with one version colored to match the PowerCD. But that was the end of the company's Mac-like Things group. Apple continued to offer imaging products like printers and scanners, but its consumer electronics ambitions were tempered. At least for things it would put its own name on. But that's a story for another time. Overall, though, Apple was fairly successful in not just bringing multimedia to the Mac, but also making the platform synonymous with the technology. One of the best-selling computer games of its time, Myst, debuted on the Mac and helped prompt further sales of CD-ROM drives and computer speakers. And if you were one of the many in 1993 who had a computer that could run it, but were lacking the hardware, Apple had just the Mac-like things that you'd need. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. You can follow me on social media at thisdoesnotcomp. And as always, thanks for watching.